and welcome to Crime Watch. I'm Mark Crosby of Quincy Access Television. Thank you so much for joining me and my guest, Officer Ryan Donnelly from the Quincy Police Department. Officer, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Another half hour, another program. I thought we're actually recording this program in the summer, but interesting, it's about child and pet car safety.
Yep.
But I understand that all year round, this could be a problem. I mean, you have extreme heat, you also have extreme cold.
Yep.
So leaving a child or a pet in a car unattended can be an issue no matter what time of year it is.
Agreed. You can become hypo or hyperthermic. So with extreme heat and extreme cold, you have both effects. They're opposite, obviously. You cool down opposed to overheat with heat stroke. But winter and summer, you should be extra cognizant of who you have in the backseat of your car and make sure they come with you.
And I know that we're going to talk about this in some detail, but folks, if they pay attention to the weather, the temperature outside of the vehicle as an indicator as to if it is safe inside the vehicle, that's a fallacy.
The temperature outside is not a good barometer. See what I did there?
I see. Yeah. Very good.
To gauge
Clever.
the temperature in the car. You're going to have a greenhouse effect in a vehicle just by virtue of glass surrounding the vehicle with windows. Tint, when you go to southern states, they have very, very dark tint. We have specific laws regarding the amount of tint you can have on vehicles here in Massachusetts. Down south, they're a little bit more lenient with that. But even with tint on your windows in the rear or on the sides, like in an SUV, it still has a greenhouse effect. We've all gotten into cars, whether it be in the winter, in the summer, and it's generally warmer than the outside temperature. Again, that's that greenhouse effect.
When you mentioned down south and the tinting of windows, yes, my son is a student at LSU, so I've been down there to visit him and see a lot of tinted windows.
Yep.
Actually staying in the south for this next news story, 3 Texas children die within 4 days after being left unsupervised in hot cars. This is recent. This is 2025, I believe a month or so ago.
Yeah, it's a real thing. So the National Highway Safety Administration, or NHTSA, National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, is running a program called Stop, Look, and Lock, meaning that once you stop your car, look in the rear seat, look in the passenger compartment for either a pet or a child or an elder, and then lock the car. It's a big deal with babies. Sometimes they're sleeping, they don't make noise. We all say, don't wake a sleeping baby, right? Anybody who has had small kids gets that. So they fall asleep in car rides. I mean, that's what we used to do with my daughter when she was little and wouldn't calm down. We'd take her on a quick car ride and then she's out.
I was up and down the Cape Cod Canal with my son. So
yeah.
Exactly.
So the main thing is the newer cars have sensors. Like, so my wife's car, every time we shut off the car, it says check the back seat because my daughter's booster seat's in it, so it feels the weight. The newer cars will have sensors, but if you have an older car, even a couple years old, you may not have a sensor and you're not paying attention, and you get out and you leave your child or dog in the car or pet in the car, and bad things happen.
And the size of vehicles, too, nowadays, there's the back seat and there's the back seat.
Yep. Yeah, so, I mean, it's funny because a lot of smaller kids like, oh, can I sit in the third row if you have like an SUV? Granted, you're not going to put like a rear-facing car seat in one of those. That would generally be in the second row because those third rows fold down a lot. You could put a booster seat in there. You could put a forward-facing seat, most likely. They have the anchor mechanisms for that on those third rows. But a lot of kids like to sit in the third row. And, I mean, SUVs are getting bigger. Look at a Suburban. I mean, that can fit, 8 people comfortably? It's a big SUV.
I remember wanting to, station wagons were big when I was growing up, and wanting to be in the way back.
The rear seat.
So you could just slide around back there, which was, of course, unsafe. So you can certainly understand why children might want to be in that seat quite removed from the drivers.
A little distance from mom and dad.
Absolutely.
A little independence.
So let's talk about some recent numbers. Actually, the recent numbers, other than the story I just read, the headline,
Yep.
there is a decrease in car deaths.
Yeah, so NHTSA reported last year in 2024 that there was 39 deaths nationwide of children being left in the car.
Which is still 39.
That's a
lives.
lot. That's a lot. One's too many.
Right.
But that's a decrease of 35% from 2023. On their website, it says between 2018 and 2019 was the highest. I want to say it was around 59 deaths both of those years, but it's been decreasing, which is good. So that means their messaging is getting out. People are doing their due diligence, but even one's too many. There shouldn't be any little kids that pass away from heat stroke in a car.
One of the things that's coming to mind is the amount of distractions that are out there now, and I'm thinking specifically of cell phone use in cars. That's simply another distraction. Years ago, it used to be just, well, listening to the radio, and maybe there's something that grabbed my attention and I'm not paying attention to the back seat. Now you have that in addition to cell phones.
Yeah, so NHTSA has a video on their website talking about their program, Stop, Look, and Lock. And it's a 1-minute clip, and it shows a mother getting out of a car going into a supermarket on the phone, like, oh, sorry, I'm not in the office, but I can take, and then it pans back and you see a baby in a car seat, and then it gives their messaging. I think that happens way too often. Parents are just distracted. It's a busy world. A lot of people are working full-time jobs and then maybe a second job, or have multiple kids, or I'm rushing here, soccer practice, going there. You know, it's just, we live in a very, very busy time.
And we also talked about, before we actually sat down, that a parent may check, may be more apt to check the back seat. A caregiver might not if they're not used to the protocol.
Yeah, so if you have a babysitter or something like that, that you allow to travel in a vehicle with your child and them operating, you know, just drill it in their heads. Hey, listen, like, no cell phone when you're driving. If it's hands-free, that's cool, but make sure you check the car when you leave. Bus drivers are obligated to do it anytime they finish up at the end of the day, is to make sure that there's no kids in the car. So tell them the bus driver rule. You got to check the car. Granted, a sedan or a SUV is a lot smaller than a 75 passenger bus. You know, checking each one of those buses on an old school long bus, you know, will take a few minutes, but just 30 seconds. Just take a look back. Oh, it's a little Bobby, a little Susie with me. Oh yeah, I got to grab the basket and get them out.
Looking at some facts, this I found to be kind of in line with my thinking, that the majority of hot car deaths, which is at here 52%, is again because someone forgets to check the car, and the result is heat stroke.
Yep. So heat stroke sets in at 104 when your core temperature becomes 104, and death is at 107. Our bodies, we sweat, so that's how we cool ourselves. Dogs, they pant, so animals and humans are different. But we can only sweat so much. And at some point, if it's hot enough in a car, your body's not able to keep up. And you got to figure, if a young child's left in a car, their heart rate's going to be up, driving up their blood pressure. They're going to be worked up, scared, and that adds to it as well.
Thursdays and Fridays, the end of the week, for some reason, maybe because it's leading toward the weekend, the incidents seem to be more common.
I'd agree. I mean, like, everybody's working for the weekend, right? So everybody's looking forward to those 2 days off if you're working a regular Monday through Friday schedule. And you're just probably mentally exhausted from the week. You know, being a parent's not easy. Being a full-time employee is not easy. And having all that and every other stress in life, people just neglect to check those seats sometimes.
And I guess talk about the importance of maintaining, I suppose, a locked car. And the reason why I say this, even before you're getting in, I suppose you'd lock the doors, but outside, before you get into the car, if it's unlocked, you don't know if someone crawled in and is laying down in the back seat or laying down in the way back.
Yeah,
the
so
third row.
One of the tips they have on the NHTSA website and other websites is to keep the keys when you're at home out of reach of your children, because they might be like, oh, mommy and daddy said we're going to go to dance. this afternoon, and they may climb in there and not be able to manipulate the lock to get out or lock themselves in there. I mean, it happens. Things happen.
I used to play in my parents' car when I was younger. So
Yeah, I used to too. Like, pretend like I was driving, the steering wheel was locked,
Right.
pretend honking the horn. Well, back then you could honk the horn even if the car was off,
True.
Nowadays, with everything being run by a computer in the cars, sometimes that doesn't happen. But we used to do the same thing. I used to do it with my grandfather's Nova. Like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm going to be like Papa. You know what I mean?
Right.
And just by the grace of God, I guess nothing happened,
It's not to say that there weren't distractions back then. There certainly were, but I think there's even more so now. Just going back to the person that was on the phone at the grocery store that you had mentioned, a lot of times it's easy enough to carry the phone from the car console to your portable phone
Yep.
without thinking and without losing step in the conversation. But at that time, too, you're not doing the check that you need to do.
Yeah, again, it's just life. Like, everybody's running around. You say everybody's hectic and stressed, especially post-COVID. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's stressed. Everybody's running around doing a million things. A lot of the new cars, as soon as you open up the door after the car's off, it automatically reconnects to your phone. I drive an older truck, so that I don't have that luxury. So
Right.
generally, it's just the speakerphone on a mount when I'm driving, and then just when I get home, take the phone out and go about the phone call. But yeah, I mean, I can absolutely see when you're rushing around, just forgetting that your younger child's in the car.
I mean, I guess ideally, if you don't have to take a child in a car, don't. I mean, sometimes that's not possible. Sometimes
Yeah.
you don't have someone to watch the child. But I guess if you don't have, I would call it the added responsibility. If you can deny yourself the added responsibility, if you can leave that child at home,
Yeah.
safe at home, especially if the errand that you're running doesn't involve the child anyway.
Yeah. I mean,
I guess I'm saying plan better potentially if you can.
yeah, with extreme heat or cold events, I'd say. You know what I mean? It's just, but again, you want to get into the habit of checking that seat, checking the rear bench seat, checking the third row. So just do it every time, even if there's no one in the car. Just do it so it's muscle memory. It's like, oh, I got to check the back seat,
So now I'd say, what if you're just simply a person walking by a car and you see a child in a car, unattended?
Unattended, if they look like they're in distress, call 911 right away. Even if they're not in distress and it's like a minor, like a baby or like, a 12-year-old sitting in the back seat, you don't have to call the police. But if you see a tender age child, I would call the police right away and just say, hey, listen, something's wrong here. Like, there's no parent around. There's a 5-year-old in the back of the car. Like, can you guys come down here? That's every day.
And that could be, right, because that could be, the child could simply have a medical emergency. I mean, that has nothing necessarily to
Yeah.
do with the heat.
I mean, back in the 80s when I was a kid, like, my mom would be like, hey, sit in the car. I'm going to go run in and go grab a loaf of bread. And it's like, oh, okay. And you just sit in the car. No one thought any wiser. With cell phones and social media, like, everybody's got their cell phone out. If it doesn't look right, call us. Like, if it doesn't make sense to your brain, if there's any question, call us and we'll figure it out. That's what we get paid to do. And we'll make sure that everybody's safe. If you see a child in imminent danger, you got to do what you have to do. Call the police, tell them what happened. If they keep you on the line, say, hey, listen, we have a police officer that's 30 seconds out. We're trained and know how to break windows with the protective film. All vehicles have protective film around their windows. It's not just like a glass like this that
Right.
you can smash. There's certain areas that you got to do it. There's certain tools that we have to do it. Even sometimes our batons won't do it. You need like a hole punch tool, like a window punch tool, things like that. We can get into cars very, very quickly. The fire department can get into cars very, very quickly. It's amazing what a Halligan can do when it hits glass. Those big steel rods that they
Right.
carry around.
Right.
But if it's like, hey, listen, we don't have an officer for 5 minutes and you have to get in the car, get in the car. I mean, if the kid looks like an imminent serious bodily injury or death, like if they look like they're about to pass out and, but if it can wait 30 seconds for a professional to get there and do it, I would suggest doing that.
And you might have some parents that would say, well, okay, I'm leaving my child in the car, but I'm cracking the window.
Yeah, no.
It doesn't make much of a difference.
No. I mean, like, again, if it's a kid that's ambulatory that can get out of the car, you know what I mean, that will get out and be like, oh, it's just too hot in there and wait outside. You know, that's usually kids like 9, 10, 11, 12, right? But if it's like an infant or a toddler or something like that, no, you can't, they're not dogs. You know, don't crack the, take the kid in there with you. Like, I get it if the kid's sleeping, you don't want to wake them up, but I mean, that's just being a parent is making sure your kid's safe.
The other thing too, and I know I read something about the correct use of seatbelts. So be aware that I don't know if there's statistics of any child that's been strangled by an improperly fixed seatbelt, but that's another concern in cars.
So that's another concern. I went to a training last year where there was an emergency medical physician from BMC. He had dual rights at BNC and Children's, and they did like an informal study of what's it look like if a kid is in a car seat, a seatbelt that isn't raised up. So you're not going to have that issue necessarily in a forward-facing car seat, and definitely not in a rear-facing car seat, because generally the seatbelts are routed differently, but with booster seats. So my daughter's 8. She's very tall for her age. She's in like the 97th percentile for height. But she's like, Daddy, I don't want to wear the seatbelt. So if the seatbelt comes across you here and not across your chest, what they were seeing was, although graphic, was internal decapitations, meaning that your neck is still physically fixed to your body, but everything inside of it's broken off. And children were passing away. Not a massive amount of kids, like 1, maybe 2 here in Massachusetts. I forget the exact statistics, but he was talking to some of his colleagues, and they were seeing similar issues. So the purpose for booster seats is to raise the child up. That's why it boosts you up, so that the seatbelt can go across your chest where it's meant and designed and engineered to be. That's to go across your chest and to stop you from moving forward and hitting something in front of you. So it locks, like if the driver locks the brakes, the seatbelt locks. You know, you might have a bruise across your chest that looks like a stripe, but
that will go away.
That will go away. If you hurt your neck and you cause trauma to anywhere in your neck, you snap a vertebrae or something like that, it moves around and cuts an artery, like there's nothing. And the doctor said, I can't stress enough how kids need to sit up appropriately. Once they get to a certain height and age, and they can sit in a seat appropriately, they're to be in the back seat until 12, and then they can move up front. Even then, depending on the size of the 12-year-old, you're going to have a separate issue with the airbag that's in front of them. They may have the weight, but not the height up front. So that causes another issue where you'll have something that's coming out at you very, very fast to stop you from hitting the dashboard, but you're short and you catch it like right here in the forehead or in the upper part of the head instead of taking like a pillow and putting it around your face, which airbags are designed to do. So that's a whole nother thing. There's a whole discipline with movement of bodies in vehicles during crashes and all that stuff. I don't want to geek out too much on it, but just the way that bodies move in a crash based on the force of the crash determines where they move and how they move and whether or not the airbags and seatbelts are effective and all that. There's just a lot of parts to that.
I know that one of the other concerns, again, don't leave your child in a car, but if you left, God forbid you left the keys in the ignition, I'm not so much thinking of someone coming in, though that is a problem and a possibility, carjacking. I'm thinking of the panel still, or the, not the panel, but the motor or the system's still engaged, so the child could potentially operate the window, the car window, and get their fingers stuck.
Yeah, I mean, that's a possibility too. Again, the best thing to do is to not leave your kid in the car and take your kid out of the car. You know, all that stuff is definitely a possibility. A lot of people will be like, well, the kid can start up the car and move it. You have to be able to hit the brake and the shifter at the same time. I mean, the coordination for younger kids, I don't think that that's there with the height. Like, I don't, you know.
Right.
But, I mean, we've all seen videos on TMZ with 8-year-olds driving Camrys down the road.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Down south.
So
like,
it can happen.
Doesn't happen up here too much, but down south.
Right.
Not to pick on my friends down south, but.
Just the other thought, too, when we were talking about seatbelts is should a pet be in either a carrier or restrained in some way?
It's funny you asked that. So if they're in the rear cargo compartment of an SUV, they need to be in a carrier or a harness that's secured. They make harnesses for dogs that sit in back seats of, like, say, sedans or SUVs. Right. That clip in to either the latch bolts that are there for the car seats, or there's another mechanism that you can attach it to a headrest. I've seen a couple different of them. The main thing to remember is if you're in a crash, there's 3 crashes that happen. Your vehicle hits the object it's about to hit. You hit your vehicle, your organs hit the inside of you. And everything in your car that's not secured becomes a projectile at the speed in which you hit that object. So to put it as bluntly as possible, you're traveling down Route 3, right? Doing a shoot in Kingston. Traveling down Route 3 South, passing Hanover. You don't see a flatbed truck in front of you that's at a dead stop. You decelerate from 80 to 60 miles an hour. And when you hit the back of that truck, you come to a dead stop. Everything inside that car that is not tied down or secured is coming forward at 60 miles an hour. So imagine a full-grown boxer, right, a dog, that's sitting behind you, coming at you and hitting you at 60 miles an hour in the back of your head because they're not secured. What do you think is going to happen? Right? You're going to suffer severe head trauma, if not death. I like live out of my truck because I work so much and I'm always doing things. So I have like a bunch of work stuff in there, and I try to do my best and tie it down, but like, you know, a helmet may not be. It's like we all try to mitigate those issues as much as possible. But at the same time, I don't think a lot of people realize like that end of physics. Like everybody thinks, oh, the car stopped. It's like, oh no, I've been to crashes and investigated crashes where everything from the back seat of the SUV is in the front driver's compartment. Like bags, bowling balls, you name it, we've seen it. And all of those things come at that velocity towards the driver and the front passenger.
When we're talking about pets and children, you had mentioned, I suppose last resort would be to break the window for a child. Can't do that for pets, correct?
So the general public can't.
Right.
We can. Police officers, animal control, and fire officers, firefighters can. So the law is very specific, right? You call us, we see an animal in danger. We have to try to make notification to the owner. That could be, hey, Shaw's Supermarket put out license plate 1234 ABC. No one answers, cool. Break the window, get the dog out of there. The only legal requirements that we have after that is there's one provision that we can't use that break to search the car, which kind of makes sense because once the emergency situation's over, that's it. You know, so we're not going to root through your car and look for guns, drugs, and all that good stuff, right? And the other thing is we have to leave written notice to the owner that this is what we did. We broke this window. Officer Donnelly did it, and your dog is at the Quincy Animal Control. So come see us. And you're probably going to face criminal charges for putting your dog in that situation.
So I guess what I'm thinking too is you'd mentioned license plate, and what would you encourage a person who passes by a car that either has a child or a dog, again, to call 911, possibly if it's in an area that let's say that there's one or maybe 2 or 3 stores, they could certainly go into those and have maybe that paged on the system.
I don't think that would be it wouldn't be a bad thing to do. So I think the only caveat to that is that if the owner comes out and you just don't want to get into a disorder with them yelling and screaming at them, just say, hey, listen, the police are on their way. Like, you can deal with them. I just don't think it's right that you left your dog in there. Now, if it's someone who's just forgets that their dog's in there, or if it's someone who does it by habit, they may be more apt to be like, yeah, screw you. Like, it's my dog. I can do what I want.
Right.
The law says different, because then it's cruelty to the animals. You know, we can charge them if we see fit.
And I know that there's, with children, with people, the signs of heat exhaustion or what's the word I'm looking for? Heat stroke might not be readily available or easily seen, but with dogs and pets in general, I think there's the outwardly signs are more what's the word I'm looking for? More obvious.
Yeah, so I have a very nervous dog. We adopted a dog, and he's just very nervous. He's always panting. So it was like, I don't know, like April when it was like 55 degrees outside. He's in my truck, he's panting. So I'm like, I'm worried. I call the vet. They're like, oh no, he just does that. Like, that's what dogs do when they're nervous. And I'm like, okay. So for me, it's tough sometimes because I think he's overheating. Like, I called the vet. I'm like, I don't know if like there's an issue like with him or, you know, who knows? I'm not too good with the biology of dogs, but that's why we have a vet. But dogs generally pant. They can't sweat. They don't have sweat glands. So that's how they cool themselves, is by panting. It generally takes dogs a lot longer to cool down than humans because humans just sweat. And then once they get into a cooler environment, the sweat stops, and like that's how we cool ourselves. But with pets, they'd definitely be panting. Like, you'll be able to tell. Like, a dog who's in distress isn't going to be sitting still, just like a person wouldn't either. They're going to be panting, might be barking, might be whining.
Yeah, a child may be whining too.
Yeah, a
showing
kid may
signs.
be crying, screaming, yelling. But it's different with pets, and sometimes it's just hard to tell a little bit. Like, especially if you have a nervous dog that's always panting. It's like, oh, I'll be all right. I'm just running inside real quick. With dogs and other animals, yeah, put the windows down. That's going to alleviate part of the issue in terms of like with them like being able to get cooler air, but you're still going to have that greenhouse effect with the windows.
Which people don't take into account. They think, well, if I crack the window,
Yeah.
that's going to make a difference. It's not going to make a big enough difference.
I don't think it will. But again, if you crack your windows, that makes your windows easier to break anyway. So, I mean, if we do have to get your dog out and the windows cracked a little bit, it will make it slightly easier.
Any thoughts of maybe what we haven't touched upon that would relate to either a child or a pet in a vehicle?
No, I think we covered everything. Pretty comprehensive discussion today.
I think it was, but I also think that we're so used to multitasking.
That's the big thing.
And that can be a problem, right? I think we have to
Focus.
focus is a big issue.
Take a deep breath and just, listen, I've been on the show a bunch of times. I'll admit when I'm wrong. I've never let my daughter in a car. I've always, brought her with me. I mean, it's just, you got to just kind of have it there. And I can understand like first time new parents that you're not used to. It's like your first, second, and third time taking your kid out of the house after like the 3 or 4 weeks that they want the kid secluded from everybody when you first get them home. We've all been there too. Everybody wants to come over and see when can I see the baby? It's like, all right, we'll give you a holler in like 3 weeks. We don't want the kid getting sick. I can understand that. Same with pets. Like, you're a new first time pet owner. You get your first dog, a little Maltese or something, like hanging out there, just snuggled up and fell asleep,
As you're saying this, I'm thinking in a store, children are allowed in a store, but not always pets, right? So there might
Service
be,
animals generally.
right. So if you don't have a service animal and you have a dog or a cat in the car, they simply can't come in with you.
Yeah, see, it's funny you mention the cat. I haven't ever had a call where someone's like, there's a cat in distress in a car. And it's like, I can't remember, like, I don't ever remember hearing that. I've never been to a
Because
call.
cats are more independent.
I've been to thousands of calls for service, and like, I don't think I've ever heard of that. It's mainly dogs.
Right.
I know some people, I have some friends that their dogs go everywhere with them, and they'll leave them at home when they go to like the supermarket on a hot day.
Yeah.
I think animals are a little bit more resistant to the cold than humans are in that aspect, like for the super cold days. But I mean, I wouldn't, if it's minus 10 degrees, I wouldn't bring a dog with me,
Right. You are right. We are at the end of the half hour. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
I thought a lot to talk about. We certainly did it justice. So thank
Yep.
you, and we'll have you back with a different topic on a different day.
Thanks for having me.
A pleasure. And thank you at home for watching. And please remember to support the local access station and the community in which you reside. Stay safe.